I always thought I was spiritual. Like, I always wanted to be or believe that I was spiritual, but I didn't really know what that meant, so I was always kind of searching for what that was like. But I didn't. I mean, I felt kind of lost and depressed, and
I don't even think I thought about it. However, I do remember being quite fearful. Any little thing that would happen, and I'd be afraid that something was going to happen. Uh, I do remember early on, because my dad was very abusive and from the alcohol, and so I remember sounds, and you feel things, and so when something would happen, I know I'd clam up in fear that something else was going to happen, and so I think when you're older, you think about how you felt, and looking back, I know that I was just a fearful little girl that was just trying to be happy and didn't know quite what that looked like.
I mean, I guess my main focus was instant gratification, lots of partying, drinking, drugs, anything that made me feel good. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, pretty much.
I did not have any contact with my dad. It was such a hard thing for my mom that's, I think, at the point where she just turned her back on anything having to do with religion, and she didn't really want us to have anything to do with him because he was not a nice man at that time.
It was kind of a cycle of using drugs and alcohol, and then being depressed the next day, and so I'd get higher, get drunk again, and feel better. I lived like that for 10 years, probably.
And then at the end of high school, my mom had been remarried, and he, right at the very end of high school, he left, basically. And my heart pretty much just hardened up because we had been really believing and trusting that God was going to change him, and been praying, and you just constantly working towards that, and then to see him just take off was a really hard one for me. And so what I discovered from my heart was that I then shut myself off to the Lord, just as my mom had done, from her experiences. And my search then started. Then I graduated from high school and moved down to be with my brother and my uncle in college, and just started the party life and drinking. And I think I pretty much tried anything that anybody had to offer, because it was, well, is this bringing you happiness? Let's try this, and 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 still felt very empty and a big void in my life. And
I I had a couple relationships that were pretty good, a couple good friends, but other relationships were not very good. Um, I was, pretty much lost, and I wasn't really happy with myself, and it's kind of hard to have a good, healthy relationship when you're in that place. I wasn't very trusting, because I didn't really believe in, I guess, myself, so I didn't have a whole lot of trust for anybody, and it was pretty lonely.
I remember some specific incidents where one particular that we had been to a party and had been drinking, and I remember driving home in the rain and didn't even know if I was going to make it, because it was in Arizona and there was the monsoon rains, and it was like, oh my, I'm going to die. But my heart just felt so repentant, because I knew that this was not, this search was not ending anywhere positive for me. And there was still that recollection of emptiness and the void.
My coping mechanism then for stress or that kind of pain was to drink. And so I drank a lot, and then went driving around and got into some bad, I got into a really bad argument with my wife, and the cops were called, and so the police were actually looking for me as I was drunk driving, and I got a DUI and was arrested.